I met him, I went to a Mercer County Republican meeting before I was active in the county. There was 4 people at the meeting, plus him and his other person, I believe it was, I forget if it was Terry that came to me that time. That was our meeting. There was about 6 of us there, 2 of us weren't even in the county. Since then, he's helped us with event after event, helping to get to know people, helping to get people to come out. Obviously, we all know what he did in the election. He did some amazing things. We're all here to support him going forward, and he's here today again on short notice this time, but he's here to support us one more time. Everyone, Bobby Schilling.
You know, first what I'd like to say is this gentleman right here is a very humble man. He just mentioned he was decorated. He actually has a couple silver stars, round star also. This guy is a true hero. He's one of the guys that went over and fought for our country and did a lot of great things, but he won't tell you the whole story. And we're going to talk a little bit about that when we're all done today. But how's everybody? What I want to do is just, first I want to thank you. I want to thank you for your dedication, for the belief that you put in me when I decided to run. I was talking to the newspaper 2 weeks ago, and actually every time I talk to them, I tell them this story. But you know, they ask, well, why did you really get into run? And I just tell them, I said, look, this fight came to me. I was minding my own business, raising my family, and running my restaurant, and I did not like the direction that our country was taking. And I came home one day, it was after the presidential election, and I said to my wife, I said, you know what, we've got to do something. And she looked at me like, oh my God, because when Bobby says he's got to do something, it's usually not something little. So I remember coming, I took a couple of weeks discerning of where I wanted to run, and I came home one day and I said to her, I said, hey, I've got it figured out, honey. And she says, great, what is it? I said, I'm going to run against Bill Hare. She says, that's U.S. Congress. I said, I know. But, you know, it's been a long road, almost 2 years that we ran. And it was amazing because our message was quite simple. You know, stop taxing us, limited government, give the power back to the people. And what I want, my big message to you today is this, is that for every soldier that's ever fought, died, and led through this great nation, and for these little guys that are out running around, we have an obligation to them. And if you at all feel a calling, you think that this is something that you should get into, you need to really seriously discern, because if you don't, if we just sit back and allow this to happen to this great nation, we're just as much at fault as the people that are doing what they're doing to the country. So, you know, as we rolled along the last couple of months of the election process, 2 weeks out, I had a pretty good feeling of what was going to happen, because we saw this huge groundswell. And, you know, I told Christy, I said, I think this is going to happen. And I'm like, oh, now what? But, you know, it is such an honor. It really hasn't fully hit me. When I went out to Washington for orientation, I tell folks that it's kind of like drinking water from a fire hose. And just when you start to get the water down, they flip it back on and they drown you a little more with it. But as the buses were taking us over to get our picture taken at the Capitol building, we were being escorted and blowing through these red lights, and it kind of hit me a little bit. And then as I got off of the bus and I looked up at the beautiful building, and just all of a sudden I started thinking of the history of the people that have been there before me. And I kind of teared up and I thought, oh my gosh, you know, this is unbelievable what's happening here. But I can tell you this, the group of freshmen that just got elected are so solid. And they're coming with different ideas, and it's something that the party is not used to, because it's kind of business as usual. And this time around, it's quite a bit different, to where we come in with a little bit of power, to where we can say, this is what the American people sent us here for, and you need to listen to us. And they are listening to us. They've made a few adjustments. Like they're giving the freshman class more votes as we come in and have different caucuses and things like this. to give you an idea, I'm having to get used to this, but thank God for my business background, because I could see people coming up and talking to other new members and kind of trying to sway them certain ways. And with my business background and just dealing with people all the time, they've got to note that they can't sway Bobby. It's kind of interesting. But I originally was shooting to get onto the Appropriations Committee to help rein in and to remove the past way that we've done what we call earmarks, because the earmarks, there can be good earmarks, but there can also be bad earmarks, and we definitely need reform, because the way that we're doing it now is broken. And as I went in and talked to the leadership in the Republican Party, they said, hey Bobby, you know what, we really like you and we want to see you around for a while, and we're going to recommend, we're just going to tell you, we don't want you on appropriations, because there's going to be very tough votes, and with you being a D+ district, they will probably unelect you. I said, you know what, this isn't about being reelected. This is about doing the right thing for the American people. And they said, well, we understand that. And then they asked me, well, which committees would you like to get on? And I said, well, the top two that I'd like to get on, I understand they're going to be tough, but it would be Ag, because it's a natural fit for our community. And then also Armed Services, because I feel a special need, and I also feel a dedication to our servicemen and women, and then plus the Rock Island Arsenal, as we watch jobs continue to be, yanked out of there. And it was interesting, because they looked and they said, there's 25 people vying for Armed Services, so that's pretty much slim to none. Ag, we could probably get you on because of, the large community that you have there. So I left that meeting. As soon as I got to the car, I'm calling people. I talked to Eric Cantor, Paul Ryan, and I was driving home 2 nights ago, and I got a call from John Shimkus, and Shimkus says to me, he goes, you know what? He goes, I don't know who you called, what you said. He said, but this is something that never happens. He says, you landed Armed Services and Ag. And he goes, so, and one of the people that he talked to says, you've got some serious fire in your belly, so keep it up. But, I said from the beginning is to go in, not to make a career out of this, but to go in and serve people. And the two top spots that I could go to are Armed Services and Ag. And, I am very eager to go in. Towards the end of the campaign, I got tired of going out and just giving lip service and talking. And now we're to the point, which I think is awesome, is in my actions I can prove who I am. And something to me that is very disgusting is the fact that the ink has not even dried, and we've got 4 or 5 people wanting to run against us. And, it tells me it's not about how I will govern, it's because I have an R behind my name, which is sad, I believe. And the thing is when my opponent got all done, he was being interviewed, he says, that was the toughest election I've ever had to run in. And I was thinking, please share that with all your friends. What we did was we've hired our chief of staff. We probably have, not to brag, but we probably have the best chief of staff in the United States of America. This is a guy who is an independent thinker. He won't kowtow and be pushed around, and will make a lot of racket in Washington, D.C. He specializes in a couple of things, but legislatively he's awesome. Re-elect, the remap, so that we don't have to deal with what we're dealing with now when you go through the little bike path and there's no voters but 3 representatives. But the guy is solid. We're building up our core base here in the district. We're going to do something that's a little bit unique, because we're going to save the taxpayers money. What we're doing is, rather than going out and getting all these fancy offices, we're going to use federal buildings in a lot of our places. Rather than going out and spending $18,000 per year for an office, we're going to go in and get free rent and use the taxpayer dollars that are already being used. So we'll have a main headquarters in Moline, Illinois, which will be a fully run office. And we have specialties in Veterans Affairs through a gentleman by the name of Ken Moffitt, who also is tied in with Bill, so we've got some really good things there. We're going to bring on a small business, a jobs person, to go out and not only attract jobs here to our district, but also to reach out to companies that are already up and rolling and catch them before they need the lifeline, and to see what we can do to keep them rolling. But one of the things I've been hitting just this past week, America became #1 in something that we don't want to be #1 in, and it's the fact that we now have the highest corporate tax rate in the entire world, which to some people, it's no big deal, but when you break it down, what that means to us as Americans is it's another way for us to lose jobs. And what I mean by that is when we talk about OSHA and EPA coming in and putting more regulations onto our American companies, and now having the highest corporate tax rate in the world, there's not that much of an incentive for our companies to stay here, and we need to fix that. I would personally like to see the corporate tax rate go down to about 25%, because what happens is not only does it make it easier for our companies here in the U.S. to stay here, but it also attracts other companies from outside of the United States to come to the place where the hardest working people in the world reside, right here in the Midwest, with the rail, the river. We've got everything needed except for the people we have running not only our state but our country. And we've got to change that to where it's an attraction to where people want to come here. And I'm one of those guys, my mom hated it because I never took no for an answer. But I don't take no for an answer, and I will fight tooth and nail, just like I said, all the way across. And I'll make a name for the 17th. We don't go to make friends. We do go to make friends, to get along with people, but we go to fight. And that's something that our district has done without for far too long. And when I got in, I could have run on the 14th. I chose to run on the 17th because that's where my heart is. My business is there, and the people of the 17th have fought and not received anything out of what's happened over the course of years. And what I want to do is make sure that everyone here understands that I don't have all the ideas. My ideas come from coming around and visiting with people here. And along the trail, the good ideas came by sitting and talking to people. This is your district, it's not my district. I'm just your voice to Washington, D.C. And what we have to do is we have to have an awesome communication between all of us to where we can get some things done and working together. And if everyone noticed, on everything I kicked out there, I'm a proud Republican, don't get me wrong. But I didn't have an elephant or an R on there. Because right now, this is about America. And if we let the D's and the R's get behind and divide us and continue, we're just going to continue to travel down that same road. At the end of the day, D's and R's want the same thing. They want the best for our kids, our grandkids, and that's what we need to get back to. It's frustrating. When I was out in D.C., I was talking to a gentleman. He's a freshman. He's from New Orleans. His name was Cedric, and I was having a very good conversation to him. And as we were closing, I shook his hand and I said, "Hey, I'm looking forward to working with you in Congress." And as I turned, one of the guys said to me, he's like, "Hey, man, he's a Democrat." And I said, I don't really care. Because we do, it's like Ronald Reagan said. Ronald Reagan is my hero. Just so everybody knows that also. And some people don't like him, but most do. But he was the great communicator. And he was one that brought us together as a country. And the dividing has to stop. We find, we hold firm on where we're at. We don't give up ground. But what we do is we educate people as to why our positions are what they are, and then they come over to us. Because with what we got going on right now, we're not educating. And I have a lot of educating that's going to be happening here in the next 2 years. But I'm really looking forward to serving each and every one of you. The armed services thing to me is very humbling to have the opportunity. My wife Christy is elated. She would have come today, but we have, I don't know if the flu's going on around here this week, but we've got a few kids at home that are they're having a little trouble. For us, when Christy and I got rolling, we said, Number one, as we run this campaign, we're going to run clean, clear, crisp, and to the issues. We did a pretty darn good job of that. Some of the commercials I could not control, but if you notice, our first commercial out of the hole was a nice positive message, just a little bit about me. Even showed me tossing a little piece of dough. You know, and we closed off that way, and that's what my intentions were to do. But, you know, so we did have a lot of fun. And the week before the election, we did discuss, what if we lose? And I looked at Christy and I said, you know what, babe? I said, no matter what, win or lose, the thing that's the most awesome about this entire trail was the fact that we met a lot of great people, a lot of great Americans who want the exact same thing that we want, is to get this country turned around. And, you know, if we think that we can just say, okay, we've got our people in, and we can go back to watching TV and doing the internet thing, I'm going to tell you right now, you're wrong. We need to be vigilant from here on for the rest of our lives. Because if we back down, I'm telling you right now, this thing is going to rear its ugly head up again, and it's going to continue to bring us down the wrong path. And when I talk about the calling, if you feel called, like Bill's feeling called to get in there and do something, you need to do some research, talk to some people, talk to me. Heck, I'm just a pizza guy. It was funny, I got to tell you this story, because the last couple of weeks, all the blogs and the opposition was saying, oh, the pizza guy this, the pizza guy this. And my son Terry comes up after we realized that we had won, and he says, Dad, what do we want the headline tomorrow to say? And I thought for a minute, and I said, I'll tell you what we wanted to say. We wanted to say, the pizza man delivers. And then I told him I was joking. I said, do not put that in the paper. But, you know, I will ask you this, is a couple of things. Is stay engaged, please. Please stay engaged. And then just remember that this will not go away. And what we need to do is continue to pray, especially for our country. This is the greatest nation on this earth. Pray for this country as much as you can and every time you remember. Pray for my family and for myself, that I go in and do exactly what I need to do. And just, you know, if you feel you want to look at getting in, talk to myself, talk to Bertelsen, you know, talk to people who have been out there running and are wanting to be leaders in the right direction. But it's very humbling. I'm honored to have this position, and as my dad always told me as a kid, is Bobby, you never ever forget where you come from. You stay grounded, and I'll do the best job that I can with the gifts that God has given me. So thank you very much. God bless you all, and I really appreciate you coming out and all the support you gave me. Thank you.